Hey guys, David Pingree here. We are at Anaheim Stadium getting ready for the 2019 Monster Energy AMA Supercross Series to kick off. And going to run around and look at some race bikes. We've got Ken Roczen's factory Honda here. These things are just works of art, man. Obviously everything's going to be brand new. Looks like that for pretty much every race, but some of the cool things here, you can see all the carbon bits on the front protecting the brake and clutch. These are actually made by Asterisk, and don't think they're really selling them yet, but they make them specifically for factory Honda. You can see all the clutch and front brake caps are custom with Ken Roczen's number and HRC on them. Stuff is beautiful. And also in the fork cap here on the top, he's got a little KR logo that's been etched into there. It's just amazing. He's running Showa spring kit, works forks. You can see more carbon fiber here on the front guard. Even all the little things down to the spacers. There's little aluminum, little cutouts into the spacer caps. So the attention to detail on these is what is really cool. So I always like checking out these brakes, just completely polished. Everything is so clean and sharp looking. This is obviously a works unit, not something that comes on a stock bike. Bigger rotor, different carrier. You've got works cases on the side here. Obviously all the bits and pieces are titanium. And this is aluminum, but a really trick works looking hydraulic clutch setup, all titanium shifter. This thing is, you can see he's taken, I don't know if you can tell here, but he's filled this with silicone so this doesn't fill up with mud here, the shift lever. Just little attention to detail that these factory mechanics do, man. It's, like I said, these are true works of art. All the connections here so that if he wants to hook up to a laptop afterwards and get a look at all the info that's come back, they can do that. Again, on the shot clevis down here below, you'll see a little KR logo that they have etched into there. Very, very cool. Billet titanium foot pegs. So there's lots of different ways you can make these. You know, you can have titanium bits and pieces that they weld together. These are made from one solid block of titanium, just to not have the possibility of a weld breaking. Very light, very sharp, very cool looking. Coated shock shafts, full works Showa suspension. Really cool looking stuff. All right, so when you get back to the back here, obviously the works hubs, all the spacers, everything's titanium. I always like the different colored banjo bolts, and you'll see that they've drilled holes in all these. They're all wire tied, so there's no way that it can come loose. You can see the same thing here. And all of these parts and pieces are either tie or handmade. You can see the titanium bolts here. And one thing that's really cool about Ken's bike, his mechanic Oscar Wirdeman was showing me, so Ken has a tendency to take his right toe and put it underneath the brake pedal to kind of lift. And so they've made little serrated edges under here to give him a little bit of grip. So if you feel under here, it's almost as notched as the top of the pedal. So kind of a cool little custom thing. These are all works cases from Japan. You can see the engine mount. All this stuff is not stock. These bungs, you'll see this in a lot of bikes. They're just getting mapping information, stuff that they can download after the race. These will probably go away after a race or two once everything gets into a flow, but for the first few rounds, you're going to see a lot of these on a lot of different bikes. All right, we made our way into the Champs pits over here, the Husqvarna pits here. Jason Anderson's #1 bike. A lot of this stuff, when you look at these and the factory KTMs, a lot of it is the same components. You're going to notice that. It's Brembo brakes and clutch, but it's higher end stuff. It's not the stuff you find on a stock bike. It's sort of their upper end components, and Brembo makes really high quality stuff anyway. So from the carbon fiber disc guard, which is actually not just cosmetic. This thing it is very, very sturdy. You could kick this with a boot and you're not going to touch the rotor. And that's the concept of these. It's not just to look pretty. It really is to protect that front brake. Obviously these really nice looking Brembo brakes, Galfer rotors on there as well. He's got the big WP work stuff with neck and clamps. And when you get down here to the engine, you start noticing a lot of mag. Now this is all the factory services group that's building all the Husqvarna and KTM engines, and these things are gone through from the top down. And you start noticing like engine mounts. This is not a stock piece, so you see the little bits that are taken out. You can make it out of different material. You can remove a little bit of this. You can use different bolts, and that will all change the characteristic of the bike. The way the engine flexes when the motor wants to twist and torque, it changes the way the bike feels. As minute as that may seem, it's important for these guys. And different riders may like different different mounts. So pretty interesting to check it out. Acropolis also making the carbon, and these things fit like a glove. You can see this thing actually sunken into the frame, really uptight against the engine and protecting it. Same thing with the skid plate back here. They have the Nihilo Concepts titanium billet pegs, and just you can tell again all the attention to detail, everything wire tied, looking really nice. One thing I always find interesting is this little light bar that you see up here on the top of the bike, and you'll notice this on a lot of bikes. When you're on the start line and everyone starts bringing their RPMs up, it's very hard to hear your own bike. If you're at the practice track, you can tell exactly where you're at and be in the right RPM range to drop the clutch. That's very difficult when there's 19 other bikes or 20 other bikes beside you. So these little lights actually read the RPMs of the bike, and when he gets to the right RPM range, these will all turn green, or some sequence that he knows he's in the right range. So as he's revving the bike up on the line, those lights will all hit a certain color, whether it's green or whatever they've got it set up for, and he knows he's in the right throttle position. So it's really important for these guys when you can't hear your bike to know that you're in the RPM range you're supposed to be in. So they do a lot of testing at the track and data acquisition, seeing what RPM range is the best. They set this unit up for that, and then that helps him on the start line. When he can't hear it, and there's all the sound and everything going on, he can just look at that and know he's in the right position. So really cool piece there. Anyway, really nice Excel A60 rims, Talon ultralight hubs. These cases, a lot of times Husky and KTM guys, these are stock. They're just coated, and it just keeps mud and debris off them, lets them clean them easier, makes them a little more durable. Lots of titanium, obviously, all over these things. And these guys are an FMF team, so this is all custom designed for this engine and this race team specifically. And again, towards the back here, really nice Brembo brakes, Guts Racing seat, and of course the best part of it, the big number 1. All right, guys, we're in the Monster Energy Kawasaki pits with the big number 3 Eli Tomac's bike, and this thing is really pretty. So again, he's got all these super nice customized caps up here on top. He's running arc levers. He's got these carbon fiber bits again. This is an asterisk thing. Same thing we saw over at Honda. The X-Trig clamps, and these are pretty cool the way these cuts are. Gives it more flex characteristic, a sturdier feeling, or a more flex, whatever you're after. They can adjust that. So pretty cool. Again, really beautiful front hubs and rotors. I mean, the stuff all is just titanium, and obviously it's before they've ridden these things, so they're just absolutely pristine. But we start getting towards the engine and it gets really interesting. So you'll notice on this exhaust system, there's another noise reservoir down here. So not just this one here, but we've got a separate one down here. They said that this was actually tested by the MX Panda over in GPs. So they found out that it does work, helps them lower noise and be able to keep noise down while still making good power. So anyway, I've never seen that before. That is pretty cool. All of their carbon fiber is made in-house by a guy. Doesn't sell it to the public. He just makes it for them. He has military contracts. Really sharp dude. But I've never seen these actually protecting radiator hoses. And the way he's got a hole here for the brake snake to drop through, that's attached to the frame here, so that if something grabs this brake pedal and yanks it out, it's not gonna break. Again, billet titanium pegs here, or these are not billet, rather these are welded, but all titanium. And then these guys have created a really cool little bracket down here that drops in and keeps any mud from getting stuck in there when Eli goes through a rut. It just doesn't allow the foot peg to get stuck up, which if you ride, you understand that problem. All magnesium works cases from KHI, just beautiful stuff. Even these little joints here, it's just the machining and the work is incredible. You can see in here too, there's a connector for them to plug into a laptop. This is something that's obviously really big in all the new bikes, getting that data back, reading what the bike, where the RPMs were, what his throttle position was on any point of the track. They're able to track all that now. Kind of brought that over from the car racing industry, and they're applying it now. But all the connections are nice and neat, tucked up into here, bolted in, instead of having just a cable dangling somewhere. Really sharp. Those guys have done a nice job. Again, custom caps back here. All this stuff is titanium, polished, beautiful. And again, when you get to the back, we've got more of this custom carbon fiber stuff, titanium axles, and Pro Circuit exhaust with the green end cap here. This green carbon, can't buy that. That's just a Pro Circuit factory Kawasaki deal. And even if you notice on this muffler, he's got an extra piece of aluminum tacked on here, or tie, just to give this a little bit more support in case his boot hits here or somebody was to come in and bump into him. So they take those little extra precautions just to make sure there's no damage to the system. And then when you get down here and start looking underneath this by the linkage, you'll see more data acquisition components. So shock speed, basically taking every reading from the shock from every lap from the whole race, and they can download that and look at it and see if there's any changes they want to make. All right, so this side of the bike, again, you see the really nice carbon fiber fork guard. And as I mentioned, things solid as a rock with some of these other bikes. These are designed to protect the disc, not just look pretty. Nissan calipers, all polished. These things are looking amazing. Everything's drilled, wire tied off so nothing can come loose. He's running the Works KYB stuff. A lot of times these guys are extending the radiators, making bigger radiators to cool it better. This carbon fiber protecting all the cases. You got custom caps in here. All of this is Works KHI casing. Really, really pretty stuff, man. And then again, you see a lot of these connectors where they're gathering information. There's another one here. Pretty cool looking stuff the way they've got this all set up. And as you get to the back, again, another carbon slider, chain guide. Just really, really nice looking stuff. And a big number 3 on here. I think this guy's going to go fast this year. All right, we're here in the JGR Suzuki pits, a little yellow Magic, Chad Reed's bike. And this thing is pretty. First time I've seen their race bike this year. They've gone to like some matte graphics, looks really nice. And he's got the show of work stuff on here, so what Reedy's sticking with. Talking to Jeremy Albrecht, he says Chad's really happy. They've come up with some good settings, and he looks really, really good. That's the word. So excited to see how he does this season. Really cool carbon up here, Galfer rotors. You can see the front brake carrier, the polished Nissan caliper up here, super strong. They're running the Excel Takasago. It's interesting when you watch now, some teams are running the Takasago, some are running the A60 in terms of Excel, and this is not quite as stiff as the A60. So some guys saying that the A60 rim has too firm of a feeling, where in the past we were always trying to get more durable, stiffer, firmer so it wouldn't bend or come out around. Now they're saying they've gotten them so stiff and firm, they actually want to go back to something that flexes a little more. So just rider-based, he's going with the Takasagos, which is interesting. When you move back here, Akrapovic, again, making their stuff. Really nice-looking carbon skid plate here. But a lot of the stuff that you'll see on here is made in JGR's warehouse. So you can imagine with the NASCAR teams and all of the tools and tooling equipment they have, they can make a lot of their own stuff. All the engines are done in-house. Radiator bracing you'll see in here, all done in-house. This little clutch bracket here, which they can change from stock, it flexes less. It just gives you a more solid feel with the clutch. That's made in-house. The engine mounts, we talked about that on some other bikes, all made in-house. I said, how many variations did you guys go through of this before you came out? And he goes, oh man, so many. There's just really no way to test these other than to put it on the bike and say, tell me what you think. So the front mount, the back mount, they can be made again of different materials. You'll see these are made of different materials. Different cutouts, different shapes, different thicknesses, all makes a difference in the feel. He said that Hill and Reed both like different things, but they're happy with what they've got. A little case saver here. Obviously, if you see the JGR logo on it, you know they made it in-house. They make their titanium pegs in-house. They make the chain block in-house. So a lot of it is built back there, and you can see they've got different gauges on here to read temperature. There's a port here in the fluid to read engine temperature, coolant temperature. Works show a suspension, and really nice Works set of wheels. Now when we get to this side of the bike, you start to notice some of these little details. Works connection, launch device, and look how deep this thing is placed. I mean, that means these forks are going to be pulled down to like here. When you've got that metal grate that they're going to have this year, it's just full grip off the pad, so you really need these things loaded down in the front. A lot of the teams using Works connections, just really high quality components, all the stuff they make. You get a good look at the Galfer rotor, oversized. I mean, that thing probably spits you right over the bars. As you come this way, you'll notice, and this happens on a lot of the teams, you'll see an extra strip of titanium or whatever material their exhaust is made of tacked on. And again, just to protect from rocks, if you were to tip over and hit another bike or someone smashes into you, it's going to keep that header pipe from getting damaged. All of this Works stuff, Works hubs up front and back. Again, we've got an exhaust bung that's just allowing them to read the fuel mapping stuff, all of that feedback and data they can get. These are all just beautifully machined titanium. You can see he's prepping for mud here. That wouldn't always normally be here. Cases here have a coating on them. They may or may not be a works case, but they coat them in black again just for more durability. It doesn't let the dirt eat at them. A lot of times at these muddy races, they'll throw lime in the soil to dry it out a little bit, and that lime just wrecks the metals on these bikes. Obviously, you got a lot of time and money into the different titanium and magnesium parts. You don't want it destroyed by lime. So they'll coat it like that just to make it a little more durable. Again, titanium, different bits and pieces, engine mounts, the work show us stuff. And these guys are running Yoshimura exhaust. They work extensively with these guys to come up with a really good setting. And sounds like it works. Jeremy's really happy with the way the bike is. The linkage in the back is all done by JGR, kind of set up to their specs. And again, they make a million of those different dog bones and just test over and over and over until they find something the guys like. And then in the back here, just a pretty standard black plastic guard for the brake, and nice set of Excel wheels with the Works hubs. The 2.2's ready to go racing. All right, we found the Monster Energy Yamaha Justin Barcia bike, and this thing is looking cool. Definitely got more of a black look for this year. I think that was promoted by Monster a little bit to get their logo to pop. But when you start really looking at the details of this thing, that's when it gets interesting. So they've mounted on a Brembo hydraulic clutch, which I've not seen on a Yamaha before, so really nice and clean looking. You also notice here from the top, they've got the same type of thing we've seen on other bikes, where this get ignition, it has a little light dial on the top, and it shows him when he's into the right RPM range. That's for the starts. Again, you can't hear your bike. You wait, you kind of keep twisting the throttle till you get to the right point on your settings there, and then you know you're in the right spot. And you see a big block up here on the start. He may have, sometimes they'll have different options for like a map just for the start, or if they just want to test different maps during the day, they can just pop from one to the other. Depending on the track, sometimes you like your bike to feel a little bit differently. And it's easy to do now with all the electronic fuel injection. Really nice carbon fiber stuff down here, very smooth and sleek. They've got the blue wheels, the DID Dirt Stars, super nice looking blue stuff. And then the carbon fiber skid plate that wraps around, protects the engine. They're using a lot of Pro Circuit parts. So not only do they use a Pro Circuit exhaust over here, but Pro Circuit shift lever here. And these are all really nice components. And you can see another big canister on here, just a chamber to take some of the noise out. So they're able to shorten the muffler or do different things with the core where they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So it just helps them with sound. And again, you can see full Works KYB suspension, really nice coatings on all the suspension and the spring. They've got this bright shiny blue. They've done that with the Honda ones in the past with the candy apple red. First time I'm seeing this blue. It's really cool looking. They also run in some Lightspeed carbon fiber. Willie over at Lightspeed makes really quality stuff. We use them a lot of our garage build bikes over at Racer X, and they're using it here as well. And then kite hubs front and rear. So a really high-end hub mounted to those DID rims. All right, so this side of the bike gets really interesting. They're running a Pro Circuit launch control here, which is great. But this piece here is a way for them. And if you look, they've manufactured a whole new foot to this fork slider and found a way to tack this thing on. And this allows them to just gather data on the suspension, the way the fork's working. How deep is it going in the stroke? When they're going through the whoops, how much travel is he using? How quickly is it going through the stroke? And they can take that data, kind of lay it over what he's saying about the bike and how it feels, and then make changes. This is all really trick. I don't know if you'll see this thing on for the race, but this is definitely how they've been practicing and testing, gathering data. They'll probably leave it on for maybe press day, maybe practice, and then pull it. It'll be really interesting to see what they gather from that. Again, really nice carbon fiber skid plate here. You've got the GOITR components here on the side, the clutch cover, titanium foot pegs. Again, all just really nice high-end stuff. All right, and another interesting thing, again, we've talked about this quite a bit, is these engine mounts. You can see the machined out cut right here. Just removing that much material is gonna have an effect on the way this bike handles. As crazy as that seems, it's true. These guys will test different shapes, thicknesses, and all that, and come up with something they like. Now, just like you see that gauge reading on the fork, they've got the same type of thing on the shocks. So they're able to see shock stroke speed, and just take that data and again make changes as the night goes on. All right, so one more really cool piece is this carbon fiber brake guard. Now, I don't know if Justin just has a habit of his foot knocking back here, but they've really gone overboard to protect this rear brake. I would be worried about maybe it heating up. Obviously, they haven't had any issues, but there's not a lot of ventilation. This is just a really solid piece of carbon fiber meant to protect the brake here. So pretty interesting, pretty trick looking. All right, we found Marvin Musquin's bike here in the Red Bull KTM pits. And talking to his mechanic, Frankie, not a whole lot different this year. It's quite similar to last year's bike as far as settings, suspension, things like that, a different Acropovic pipe. But just walking through, you can see the attention to detail on here. You can see it better, definitely better from the other side. But these guys wire tie all the spokes together. That's kind of an old school thing. If you break a spoke, it doesn't get wrapped up in the wheel, start taking out other spokes. You have a better chance of being able to finish the race. I remember doing that back when I was riding 60s back in the 80s. So something old school, but Roger doesn't mess around. There's championships on the line, and he takes everything very seriously. Again, factory services engine, pretty standard looking for these. Really nice Acropovic skid plates on here. They fit really nice, really good looking stuff. The billet Nihilo Concepts foot pegs, all titanium. They're running the frame guards here as well. These have a little bit of grip on them, so it lets you squeeze with your foot and get a little bit better feel of the bike. Again, these guys have some different engine mounts, probably specific to each rider. And this looks a lot like, you can see the kite piece here on the hydraulic clutch, but they do look quite stock. I think they try to keep them looking a lot like their factory edition bikes or vice versa. And they do, to be real honest with you. Acropovic chain guide in the back, and kite hubs, very high-end hubs. All right, so on this side of the bike, again, we're seeing the neck and clamps, the WP Works forks, kite hubs, really high-end Brembo brakes. They're running the DID Dirt Star rims. And so they were talking about a new Acropovic exhaust. They're actually going to have one on here that'll have a bung once they start racing to get some data, but this is the pipe he's going to race with. Full factory services engine, again, different coatings and things like there. Henson does a full clutch for them, the cover, the billet pegs, all the bits and pieces. Again, full WP work shock. These things are obviously working quite well for them. And then the Selle de Laval seat. It's got like some nice ribs on here to hold you in place. The Red Bull graphics, all sublimated in, super nice stuff. Anyway, beautiful bike. Musquin definitely hunting for that first championship. Bike's ready. We'll see if he is.